Hello, everybody, and welcome along to another episode of the Lights Out F1 podcast. We're very excited for this one because the 2022 season starts this Sunday. We've obviously put out our Bahrain Grand Prix preview yesterday. Go and check that one out after you've listened to this, of course. I'm joined as always by Joshua Fletcher, Callum M, who for some reason is in a circle. Audio listeners probably won't be able to understand what that means. And then we've also got Callum O over there as well. We're going to be going through and making our predictions for the 2022 season. We did this last year. It was the first time the four of us had met. Probably a little bit more awkward last year than it is this year. We all kind of know each other after a year of doing this together. So there might be a bit more debate and a bit more controversy than there was last year, especially after the liveries debate that we had the other week. The way this is going to work is same as the liveries podcast, if you listen to that, is we've all four of us have put in our predictions of where we think all the drivers will finish from 1 to 20. I've then whacked that into a spreadsheet and come out with kind of an average finishing position for all the drivers, and we'll go through in reverse order where we think collectively the four will finish, and then we'll also get from the other guys and myself where they think they'll finish. So yeah, it should be a good episode, good bit of debate. There's some that really do need debating, and there's some that definitely don't, in terms of the fact we've just all agreed on where everyone will finish. So let's get straight into it. Let's get into last place, first of all, in the Drivers' Championship. And collectively, we've gone with the rookie, Guan Yu Zhou. He's going to be finishing 20th, according to us. Myself, Callum O and Callum M all put him 20th. But Joshua, you've gone with Guan Yu Zhou in 16th in his rookie season. Talk us through that one for me.
I don't think the Alphas look bad. I mean, once we get to constructors, you'll probably see where I've put them on the average of it. I know he's a rookie. It's a lot to ask, but Tsunoda didn't do badly in his rookie season at a sort of midfield team. I think that's about where Alfa Romeo would be this year, and I think there's cars worse than his. So I think he's got a decent chance of not being brilliant, but I don't think he'll be anywhere near the bottom three.
And Callum M, you seemed a little bit confused by that. Obviously, myself, you, and Callum O all put him last in the championship. What do you think to Joshua's prediction there, and why have you got him last?
I don't know what Josh is talking about at all, to be perfectly honest. Alfa Romeo don't look that good in testing, but the main reason is Zhou, he could be a great driver. We just don't know anything about him. He's a bit of an unknown quantity on this grid. And his junior career, it wasn't that great. A lot of people have compared him to Latifi, and he's not been particularly great the last couple of years. So, yeah, it's a perfect storm, really, just to put him last. Yeah.
Well, he had 3 years, I think, in Formula 2, and obviously has come up this year and got his drive. Didn't win the championship either last year. It was Oscar Piastri that won it, and he's been a member of the Alpine Academy for quite some time. But yeah, always been up there in F2 towards the front, but it hasn't won the championship and challenged for it last year. But Piastri did kind of run away with it in the end, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see him dead last this season. Next up in 19th, we've gone with Nicholas Latifi. I don't think much needs to be discussed on this one. Just a pretty average season for him in a Williams that isn't probably going to be that competitive. So we've all got him 19th. I put him 18th. Joshua put him last in the championship. Callum O put him 18th, and Callum M put him 19th. So I think one of the four of us will probably be right with that one. In 18th, we've gone with his teammate Alex Albon, who obviously showed plenty of potential while he was at Red Bull. I've gone for 19th. Joshua and Callum M have gone for 17th. Callum O has put Alex Albon in 16th, the highest of all of us. What makes you think Albon's going to kind of be the best of the rest, kind of down at the bottom?
I think 18th really harsh, to be fair. I don't think the Williams have set the world alight by any means, but I still think they've looked decent. They're very happy with the running, very happy with the way Albon's performed for them in the 2 preseason tests. But I don't think the Williams will be a part of the midfield. I still think they're a way off that, but I do expect that he'll be one of the sort of best of the Class C drivers, alongside probably Valtteri Bottas and the Alfa Romeo.
And Albon's as well has got experience at Red Bull, which will probably be valuable for him to take into Williams and hopefully improve Nicholas Latifi, who's been pretty average for 2 or 3 seasons now. If we go to 17th, this is one that we need to spend a bit of time talking about. We've gone with Mick Schumacher. We've got him 17th overall in the standings. That's where I put him. Callum O put him 19th, and Callum M put him 18th. Joshua, you've gone with 13th for Mick Schumacher this season. What on earth is making you think that?
I do regret some of these now, reading them back. I think there'll be one or two shocks this season. And I don't know. Maybe it's the recency testing bias, but the Haas didn't look awful. They were putting some decent performances in, and look, maybe it's crazy, but I don't know. I can see one or two shocks happening, and I mean, I know I'm going to get slated for one of these predictions that I think we'll get an audible gasp from some of you later on. But I don't know. Let's have some fun. Let's think. Let's hope for some shocks. And why can't Schumacher finish 13th? I don't know.
Well, you were the predictions champion last year, Joshua. So there's no reason why you can't go and do it again, and that could be a bold prediction. Callum M, I think Schumacher certainly has the potential to finish 13th in the championship if his Haas car is competitive enough. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would actually. I don't think Josh is as mad as maybe we think he is. I think that's actually quite right. We don't know how Haas are going to perform. They didn't do a lot in testing. What they did do was actually quite good. And I do think they're in for a much better season than last season. And Mick is a good driver. So it is possible. I think the rest of us we've leaned on the side of caution here. But, I'd love to see him 13th. I think we all would. He looks like a very promising driver. So.
And we'll come to you next, Callum O, to talk about his teammate Kevin Magnussen, because you've ranked him the lowest of all of us. We've got him 16th, beating obviously Mick Schumacher. In terms of Magnussen, I put him 13th, Joshua 14th, Callum M 15th. Callum O, you've got Kevin Magnussen down in 17th. What was your thought process behind that?
It's not a reflection on Magnussen, because I put him to beat Schumacher. I think he'll be really valuable for Haas, just his experience, knows the team, he's a solid driver. I just haven't seen enough from Haas that's convinced me they won't be the 9th or 10th best car. It'll ruin my prediction later, but I have put them last. So I don't think there's enough in that car to justify putting them 13th, as Josh did. But no, I think 17th is fair for Magnussen.
And the next man that we're going to talk about is somebody that was in a completely different position in all of our predictions last year. And that's understandable because he was driving for Mercedes. This year he's at Alfa Romeo, and that's 14th. We've collectively gone with Valtteri Bottas. Callum M, you put him the lowest of all of us. You've put him down in 16th. Myself and Joshua have him 12th, and Callum O in 14th, but 16th for Bottas. Callum M, what were you thinking behind that one?
I think Alfa are going to struggle this year a lot. I don't know if they'll have the worst car necessarily, but I can't see them doing anything special. And Bottas is a much better driver than people give him credit for, but he's not a great overtaker. And he showed that at Mercedes. And I think that when you're at the back of the grid, he needs to do a lot more overtaking. And if he's not going to be able to do it, then I think he's going to struggle. I think he could finish 12th or 13th. I think that is entirely possible, but I just got a bad feeling about Alfa this year for some reason.
Well, in terms of my constructors prediction, I've gone with Bottas pretty much scoring every single one of Alfa's points this season, and that's why I've put him up in 12th and Zhou down in last. Joshua, what do you think about Valtteri Bottas this season? He was obviously Hamilton's teammate last year. He's going to be leading Alfa Romeo this year. There's no doubt about that. What do you think he's going to be like as a lead driver for Alfa Romeo?
I think he'll relish the opportunity. I know Mercedes and Toto have said, we've never had number one or number two drivers. He's obviously felt insignificant compared to Lewis over those 6 seasons they were together. I don't know. I think he'll enjoy it, but it's sort of the luxury you have at Mercedes is you're always up there, but you're often on podiums and you're winning constructors championships for 7 years in a row, whatever it was when he was there. So I think he'll enjoy the opportunity of leading a team, but in a car that has been nowhere near what he's been used to for his time in F1. I think it's going to be a real struggle for him, and probably won't enjoy the season as a whole.
I think it's worth mentioning that I have just jumped straight to 14th from 16th. In 15th, collectively, we had Lance Stroll, who I don't think we need to talk about too much. I put him 14th, Joshua and Callum O put him 15th, and Callum M put him 13th. So anywhere around 13th to 15th, I think would be fair for Lance Stroll. And then obviously Bottas in 14th, as we've just discussed. 13th, we've gone with Fernando Alonso. I'll come straight to you again, Joshua. Because last year you said this was a waste of a seat. Are you still feeling the same about Fernando this year? You've put him down in 18th.
Yeah. I don't think it's a waste of a seat. I think he obviously, Alpine did quite well. He got a lot of praise. I still would have preferred to see a younger driver in there. I don't know how long he'll stay in this seat beyond this season. I don't know. Again, I've got him down in 18th, which is probably a mistake on my part again. But I think we've got to see a big shock at some point. And I mean, it's not my wild prediction, but it is a wild prediction that I think Alpine will be like the big strugglers. Like they'll be like the big drop from not a bad team to struggling this season, and more in the mix of Williams and Haas than they were with Mercedes and AlphaTauri, not McLaren and AlphaTauri. Sorry. So I know that's it's a bold claim to presume that the Alpine will struggle, and therefore so will Alonso. But I mean, yeah, it's something's got to give this season under all these new changes.
And I've got him down in 15th myself. That's just because I think the Alpine is going to be at the back of the midfield, and that's where probably Alonso will finish. And the Callums, you've both put him 10th in the championship. Callum, I'll come to you. What was you thinking behind that? And you obviously, I assume, massively disagree with Josh. You've put him 8 places higher than Joshua has.
I'd argue there's probably more thinking behind mine than Josh's. Because I don't know, 18th is... I can accept maybe 10 could be high, because no one's truly sure of the Alpine package. No one's truly sure how good it is. I'm fairly confident it's not that bad. I think I don't expect them really to gain much. They've said they think they're closer to the front runners. Whether they are or not, will it be noticeably closer? No. So about 10th, which is where he finished last year, is about where I would expect to see him.
I think the way our averages are balanced out, I think 13th for me, if I had to change my prediction, I probably would have maybe put him around 30. I think 15th could be a little bit low. And if that Alpine is as bad as Josh is suggesting it is, then I still don't think he'll be finishing 18th. I still think he'll be able to get the most out of that. But let's talk about his teammate, Esteban Ocon. We've got him 12th collectively. Joshua's put him down in 19th this time. So Callum M, let's get your reaction to that one.
Sorry, Matt, sorry, just please repeat that. 19th?
Yes, Esteban Ocon.
I mean, look, I don't want to insinuate that Josh has been smoking some random substances, but it doesn't appear that on these predictions. What the heck are you thinking, man? 19th. I've got him 9th. I've got him 9th. I don't know what you're. Honestly, I don't know what you're smoking. I think Alpine are going to have a decent season. I think they're going to be the best of the midfield. I don't know. I'm baffled by that. I think he's had a great year last year, and I think he'll do. And I think he'll get better this year. But I'm sorry. Yeah, can we go to Josh, please?
Yeah, of course. Straight to you, mate.
I don't know what I can say that I haven't already said. I have a bad feeling about the Alpine this season. I just think they'll be the big strugglers, and I think Ocon will suffer from it. I don't know. It's just an instinctual feeling that they'll be those bottom 3. Maybe 18th is a bit harsh. 19th, sorry, for Esteban is a bit harsh, but
maybe slightly
harsh. Maybe we can revise this during the summer break, and I might rethink my predictions. But it is a bold call, but I don't know. Gut says he'll be further down there than nearer the top.
Callum, have you seen anything that can justify Josh's predictions? I mean, you've got him 12th. I've got him 16th, which again probably is a little bit harsh.
Yeah, No, I can't. Even 16th is very low. It's a very bold prediction, and if Alpine have a shocking year, Josh will look like a genius. However, I don't think there's much chance of that happening. I don't think they're going to fall off that badly. No, Josh is wrong. In a line, Josh is wrong. Yeah.
I think Josh will probably hold his hands up and take that, but it's kind of 2v2 here. Me and Josh thinking Alpine, I don't think they'll have a catastrophic year that Josh thinks they'll have, but we obviously don't think they'll have a good as year as maybe, the two Callums are expecting. So it's the Callums versus everybody else on this one. And I think at the end of the season, we'll come back and discuss that. And I'm sure it's going to be referenced throughout the season as well. Let's move on from Alpine. Let's move on to AlphaTauri and Yuki Tsunoda in his second season in F1. We've got him combined in 11th. That's where I put him. Joshua, you put him 10th. Callum O, you put him 13th. But Callum M, you've got him lowest down in 14th. My thinking behind it was, Tsunoda building on last season and having a slightly better season. But Callum M, you don't seem to agree. You've got him down in 14th this year.
Yeah, I feel this is the Matt and Josh versus the Callums podcast this stage. Like, what is going on? Yeah, I mean, the AlphaTauri car's not going to be any better than 6th or 7th on the grid, and by that logic I don't think he's going to be better than either Aston Martin driver or either Alpine or his teammate Gasly. So yeah, I think he could definitely improve from last season. He was okay last season. He crashed a lot, but he did show like a lot of raw pace, I guess. So yeah, I just think I think he'll be better than like the back markers, but I don't think he's going to be challenging in the midfield too much.
Joshua, you've got him as the 10th best driver in the world. So let's talk us through that one.
I don't know whether this is a bit of Drive to Survive tinted glasses. I just really enjoyed his episode. I think it's not a bad car. Obviously, it's not the sister team of Red Bull, but there's some sort of influence there, and I think 10th's fair. I don't know. I just think there's cars worse. I'm not saying that the drivers below him in my rankings are worse than him. There's a couple that I think are definitely better, but I don't know. I just think being in that car sort of elevates you one or two positions, like against drivers better than you. I think it's a fair average. I think for him, and I think he's learned more now. So I think maybe hopefully some less crashes for Yuki.
I think with us, I think for me, AlphaTauri should be aiming for 5th in the championship as a minimum, and I guess your drivers, you want them to be finishing around 10th, 11th, 12th if that's where you're going to finish it, overall. So I think it's a fair call from probably everybody overall, but I can't see him, doing as badly as 14th. I think he finished. I'm not sure. I think he finished higher than that last season, or maybe around there. But yeah, 14th, maybe a bit too low, but I think 10th, maybe too optimistic. I think I'm right with 11th, and that's why I've put him there. Let's move on to Sebastian Vettel. Last year, I probably made howler of the season with this one. I predicted him to finish 5th in the Aston Martin, if you'll recall that one. This year, we've got him a combined 10th. We've mainly agreed on him. It was me that put him 10th. Joshua and Callum O, you've both put him 11th. Callum M, you've put him 12th. Don't think we need to dwell too much on this one. I think it's just going to be another kind of average season for Sebastian Vettel. Let's move on then to the top 10. Inside the top 10, we've got at 9th, we've got Tsunoda's teammate. We've got Pierre Gasly, put him 9th overall. All of us put him 9th, apart from Callum M. You put him 11th. And we've all sang Pierre Gasly's praises recently, but Callum O, I'll come to you on this one because we've not heard from you for a little while. What do you think of that one? Is Pierre Gasly 11th place material, or is 9th a bit more fair?
I mean, it does really depend on the car that AlphaTauri give him, and all sort of indications from testing were that it'll be a good car. So I do expect to see him like ahead of 10th place Alonso by some way, like we saw last year, and more pushing up to that group of sort of the back of that top 8, the McLarens, Ferraris, Red Bull, Mercedes, in whatever order you've got them. So yeah, I think 9th for Pierre Gasly's fair. So 2, sort of the best out of the midfield, and then just off the front running cars.
Callum M, what was your thinking behind 11th for Gasly?
I mean, to be fair, I could easily have put him ninth. It was splitting hairs between. I had Ocon, Alonso, Gasly in ninth, 10th, 11th. It was splitting hairs between the three of them. If he finishes ninth, fair play to you guys. I've just put him in 11th, but on another day, I might have put him ninth. I really rate him as a driver. I'm more curious about where he's going to move after this season. I can't see him staying at AlphaTauri for much longer. Whether he'll go back to Red Bull, I hope not. Whether he'll maybe go to Mercedes to replace Hamilton, I don't know. But yeah.
I think the interesting thing about Drive to Survive was when they labelled Pierre Gasly as an experienced race winner. I think there probably should have been a comma in there. Experienced driver and a one-time race winner. But obviously he showed how good he was that afternoon in Monza as well. Let's move on then to the front runners, I suppose, because I think this top 8, depending on how the cars perform in Bahrain, could kind of be in any order. But we'll go to 8th first of all, which is Daniel Ricciardo. All of us have backed him to finish 8th and to outperform Lando Norris, which means we've got Norris in 7th overall. So Joshua, let's talk about McLaren. You still think Norris will have the better of Ricciardo this season?
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot closer. I think he's probably more used to the car than he was. He sort of took a while to get into the swing of it. As we saw, he struggled a bit last season, but they've both come out and said that their relationship is fine. It's not what's been construed in the media. So I think a year's teammates behind him. It's a good car. I can't see it competing as against the other three this season. And I think they're two good drivers. I think sort of bottom middle is fair. They'll probably get a couple of handful of results, decent results, probably some podiums with some on some crazy days. But I think they're the best of the rest, but the worst of the top 4.
Mm-hmm. And Callum O, we'll come to you because you almost, well, it's you that's ruined the McLaren clean sweep here. All of us put Ricciardo 8th, and all of us put Norris 7th. Apart from you, you've gone for him in 6th. What made you put him into that top 6?
Just, I think, purely based on the form we saw from him, especially the first half of last year. The second half, he wasn't that good, but the team struggled. So I think it sort of negates some of it. I just think if McLaren give him a car that's somewhat competitive, he will get good results in it. It's his 4th year with the team, 4th year as an F1 driver. He's not the new kid on the block anymore. He's a Formula 1 driver, and he's very good at it. And I think he will be ahead of maybe a car that you wouldn't expect him to be.
And for you, Callum M, do you think McLaren are going to be, kind of the best of the rest in terms of top of the midfield, but not quite competitive enough with the front runners?
I mean, I can definitely see them winning a race or two and getting on the podium a few times, but testing hasn't been all that great. It looks like Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull are ahead of them. And in regards to Ricciardo, obviously he's missed out a lot of testing because he had COVID. And I think he'll start the season a bit slow. I think they'll grow into it again. But yeah, I mean, I think 4th best is what they'll finish up in the end. But yeah, I think they can definitely get a win this season.
And then moving on from McLaren, in terms of the top 3 teams, let's go to next in 6th. Collectively, we've got Sergio Perez in that position. Sorry, Callum. Myself and Joshua both put him in 5th. Callum O put him down in 7th, and Callum M put him at 6th. Let's come to you, Callum O. I assume you just think Norris is a better driver than Perez, and that's the reason you put him there rather than having a better car, a better car than.
I just think Perez, if it is as competitive between the Red Bulls, Ferraris and Mercedes, Perez could quite quickly, if he doesn't start well, find himself as a very, very clear second driver, and that will impact his race results in terms of strategy, having to move over for Max. And yeah, I just think maybe he could struggle a little bit, and I think he'll find himself just behind Lando. Although I wouldn't be surprised to see him higher. It's just that's my gut feeling is that Lando will be slightly ahead of Perez.
And Callum M, what about you? Obviously, he's your man, Sergio Perez. I'm surprised to not see him first in your rankings this year. Can't remember where you had him last year, but I think it was also still fairly high. But you've got him down in sixth this year. Talk us through that one.
I mean, I have to look at this objectively, and I think of the kind of big three teams and the big six drivers, I think objectively he's probably the weakest. He is one of the most experienced, and that will play in his favour. But I just think if the Ferrari, as Callum O pretty much summed it up perfectly, if the Ferrari and Mercedes are on the same level as Red Bull, he's going to get kind of swamped down. Red Bull will focus on Max, and therefore Checo is going to be in trouble. And to be honest, sixth isn't a bad. If that is the case, sixth isn't a bad position to finish in. Very reminiscent of when Mark Webber was at the team. He would usually finish sort of between fourth and sixth, depending on what the season was. So yes, obviously I want him to win, of course, but I just know that's not going to happen. So.
And then moving on to fifth place collectively, we have Carlos Sainz. I've put him fourth. Joshua's put him sixth. The two Callums have both put him fifth. I think for me, that Ferrari is going to be a lot closer to the Red Bull and the Mercedes last year than it has been before. Joshua, you've got Sainz down in sixth. What was you thinking behind that one? Do you think maybe Ferrari won't be as competitive with Red Bull as Mercedes as maybe I'm thinking they will be?
No, not at all. I think the Ferrari look good. I don't want to say the Red Bull look. I think the Red Bull look the best, which is the only reason I've gone for Perez over Sainz. But I think as echoing what the Callums have said, I think Perez is the weakest out of those six. But I've only got him fifth because I think the Red Bull at the moment looks like the best car. So I think he'll edge it. He could edge Sainz, but only just if he does. But I don't think he's a better driver than Sainz, Norris, or probably going further down to Ricciardo either.
Let's move on to his teammate Charles Leclerc, because one of us has him down as the world champion for this year, and that is Callum M. So Callum M, you've got Leclerc in first in your rankings. Have you put him there to be different, or do you think he's going to finish there? And what role will Carlos Sainz have in that happening? Do you think? Obviously, you put Sainz in fifth.
Okay, so it's a bit of both. I didn't want to be a cliche and put Max first, which is what I'm going to guess all of you have put. Well, apart from Josh, he's probably put Lewis first because for obvious reasons. The Ferrari does look really quick, and they are overdue a world champ. They haven't won. A driver hasn't won the championship in a Ferrari since 2007 with Kimi Räikkönen. They haven't won the constructors since 2008. They're kind of overdue a champion, and last year they improved a lot to get to third overall, and testing looks very promising. And I feel that things are coming together here, and I think Charles could have a mega season. The reason he's ahead of Sainz is always a bit unlucky, I feel, and even though Sainz finished ahead of Leclerc last season, I think it could be the other way around this time around. I could be completely wrong. Carlos Sainz could win the championship, and Leclerc could have all the bad luck, but I do think this could be Ferrari's year.
Callum O, Leclerc versus Verstappen versus Hamilton potentially for the title. Red Bull versus Ferrari versus Mercedes. How mouth-watering does that sound?
Oh, it's fantastic. That's like the big three in F1 in terms of drivers and in terms of teams on form. I think it'll be, whether it'll be that close all the way through the season, I'd like to sit here and say it'll be competitive all the way through and it'll be trading wins every week. But I'd imagine at points in the season there will be a team and a driver that breaks away. But I think that's what a sort of lineup that is. The three best drivers on the grid fighting for the world title.
I think it would be pretty unbelievable, to be fair, but also not unbelievable because we know how good the three cars have been after testing. I think for me, Mercedes are going to get their act together, as I said yesterday. If Mercedes are as slow as they say they are in testing, then there's no reason why Charles Leclerc can't be world champion this year. Joshua, how would it make you feel to see Charles Leclerc win the world championship?
I think you have to like and respect Ferrari as a motorsport institution. I don't know. warming more to Leclerc and Ferrari sort of as time goes on. Obviously, I always saw them as a rival to the teams I liked at the time. They obviously have had a bit of a drop, but they've still been super competitive. I mean, the Hamilton and Vettel battles were, I mean, some of the biggest memories I have of sort of F1. So good to see them about. I think he's a very good driver. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins multiple races this season and gets a ton of podiums. But yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Next up, we've gone with one of the new boys in the top teams. In fourth overall, we've gone with George Russell. I've put him in sixth. The rest of you have put him in fourth. Callum O, I'll throw this one over to you. George Russell, fourth best driver on the grid this year for you?
Yeah, I just think he'll be sort of the best, the rest behind that top three. Very talented driver, and what I'd imagine will soon be a very good car when it's the issues are ironed out. I'd argue the bigger question is, why have you got him in sixth?
I think, well, mainly because I think Mercedes will prioritise Hamilton if they're in a position where they're going for the World Championship, and he could be in a bit of a Perez situation. There's no reason why he couldn't finish fourth, but I think Mercedes will prioritise Hamilton in a championship fight because, I think Hamilton, this could be probably his last season that we see of him in the sport. So I think he's got a year to get used to being in a top team, which might not take him too long to adjust to. We obviously saw him asking a lot of questions when he took the seat in Bahrain, but there's no reason why he couldn't finish fourth. But I just think Mercedes will prioritise Hamilton, and Russell will probably take a year to get up to scratch in that car, to be fair. In terms of third, we've gone with Charles Leclerc, so we don't need to talk about him. We've kind of already discussed that. Callum M, could you see George Russell challenging that third spot at all?
Oh, absolutely. Like, to be perfectly honest, the top six is very interchangeable. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, got him in fourth. Could he beat Lewis? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think he will, but I think he'll run him very close. And yeah, can't see him beating Max. And then, he could beat both Ferraris. He could beat Sergio. So yeah, third is possible.
And let's talk about our top two for the season then. It's probably the same as last season if you averaged out all of our predictions. In second, we've got Max Verstappen. You've all put him second. I've put him first to win the championship. And I have literally just changed that in the last 5 minutes. It was Hamilton first, but I thought I'd be different and put Verstappen first and back him to do it once again. And I simply think that's because Mercedes may lag behind in the first few races, and that could be where the title's won and lost if it takes them too long to get up to speed. Joshua, you said last year there's no way Max wins a title in the Red Bull. That's happened. Will it happen again?
No. Well, I mean, I was what? A dodgy decision away from being absolutely correct, because Mercedes won the Constructors' Championship, and controversial opinion, Max bottled it in the last 5 races. And it was given to him on a silver platter. And I think it's going to make Lewis and Toto and Mercedes, and now by association George, far more hungry to silence the doubters. I think I've seen a lot of people say Hamilton's past it. He's not going to win another one. And I think he's probably got the most desire he's ever had, quite simply. I mean, it was robbed from him. No, not robbed from him. He lost it. Lost it at the final stages once, and he came back and won it. And he's going to do the same thing. I don't know. I don't know if Max is going to get a bit arrogant and cocky. And the number one thing, Lewis has never done it, and it served him well. There just seems to be a bit of an arrogance there, and that I don't know. We'll see, but I think it'll be very close. It won't be as close as last time. But I think Hamilton wins it by less than 50 points, but Hamilton wins it.
Callum, what about yourself? It was you that called we'd have a very close championship last year. Can you see the same happening this year? You obviously gone with Lewis as well as Joshua.
I don't think it'll be as close as last year. I don't think we'll ever see a World Championship quite as close as that. Again, or certainly not for a long time. I think there's more positives for Mercedes and Lewis than there is Max and Red Bull. They have the stronger car now. down on Red Bull, but I think Mercedes will get that car working, and when it works, it will be a monster. I think Red Bull developed their 2021 car for a lot longer than Mercedes. So I think Mercedes will be ahead in that regard in terms of development. I think Lewis, as Joshua said, will be incredibly motivated, as will the rest of the team. I do genuinely think this could well be the best version of Lewis if he's up for it. And I just think that will edge him out the title. Not by a big margin, probably like Josh said, about no more than 50 points. He won't have it wrapped up by USA, as he sort of had a bit of a phase of doing. But I do think he'll have it done by Abu Dhabi.
Callum M, you're sitting nervously up there. You've got him in third this season, Lewis Hamilton. Talk us through that one.
I mean, yeah, he could easily win it. As I said before, this is all just interchangeable. But I mean, the point kind of has been made when Lewis has lost titles before. He's come back even stronger the following year. Lost out in 2007 by 1 point and then won it the following season. And same goes with when Rosberg won in 2016. He really kind of roared back and won it in 2017. So, yeah, he could easily do the same. I still think he's the best driver on the grid. But is that Mercedes car going to be good enough? Or have Red Bull and indeed Ferrari sort of jumped them? I think they'll do their usual thing when Mercedes start off a bit slow and then get better as the season goes on. But if Red Bull and Ferrari can keep ahead or just keep level, then I think they'll see him off for the title.
And Joshua, the last one, the drivers, it's pretty clear that we've got Leclerc, Verstappen and Hamilton in our top three in various orders. Could you see anybody else sneaking in there?
No, I think although he looked very good in the car when he's raced it before, it's probably a season too early for George. And I think those three are clear. If anyone comes and disrupts that three, it would be George Russell. But I can't see anyone but Hamilton or Verstappen, to be honest, winning it. I think even Charles at some point will drop off, and it would go back to that duel between Max and Lewis.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting, and we can't wait to see what happens. In terms of our final order, we had obviously showing last, and it was Latifi, Albon, Schumacher, Magnussen and Stroll down to 15th. From 15th down to 10th, we had Bottas, Alonso, Ocon, Tsunoda, Vettel. 9th down to 5th was Gasly, Ricciardo and Norris, Perez and Sainz, and then our top four, Hamilton first, then Verstappen, Leclerc and Russell. So that's the way that we think the Drivers' Championship is going to pan out. There's obviously a Constructors' Championship to be won. That wins you money and wind tunnel time as well. In terms of that, we'll have a quick chat about where we think each of our constructors are going to finish. Overall, we have Alfa Romeo finishing last. All of us put them towards the bottom, apart from Joshua as usual. I put them 10th, Callum O put them 9th, and Callum M also put them 10th. Joshua, you've got the Alphas in 6th.
Yeah, again, it's not a great car, but I think, as has been said before, their points will come from Bottas, and he's a better driver, I think, than any of than all but one of the teams I've got below. So, yeah, I think he'll drag them higher up than they probably deserve to be.
Callum O, can Alfa Romeo finish 6th with all their points coming from one driver?
No, I think Bottas will drag him up. I don't think anyone can drag an Alfa Romeo up to 6th purely on his own. I put him 9th purely. I think Bottas can drag them ahead of Haas and maybe ahead of Williams. I think that could change. But no, it's 9th for me, and 10th overall it's not unfair.
I think the reason I've got them then, probably Callum M as well, is because they had a pretty shocking test. A lot of time was spent in the garage. And obviously we've also talked about Guan Yu Zhou and it being his first year in Formula One, in a difficult first year where surely all he has to do is learn, and probably won't be expected to set the world alight. Next up in 9th, we have Williams. I don't think we need to discuss this one too much. We've all got them down there. Three of us have got him 8th. That's myself, Joshua, and Callum O. Callum M's put them 9th. So I think it is going to be a bottom three of Williams, Alpine, and Haas. We have Haas overall in 7th. And that's probably down to the fact that myself, Joshua, and Callum put them in 7th, and 8th. Callum O, you've got Haas dead last. No improvement from last year in terms of their finishing position for you.
I think there'll be an improvement on track. It's the same thing. They didn't have the best. They had a shocking Barcelona. Bahrain was better. There was a lot of things made about Magnussen going fastest and Schumacher going second fastest on the last 2 days. I think with that extra track time on a clear track in the perfect conditions of Bahrain, they're nothing more than glory runs that just paid off for them. I think they'll be a lot closer, and 10th could be harsh, but I couldn't justify it really any higher than 10th or maybe 9th.
And then in terms of next up in 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th, we have Alpine. And that's probably because of myself and Joshua that have dragged that one down. The two Callums have them 5th. I have them 9th, and Joshua has them 10th. Joshua, have you got anything else to add on Alpine that you haven't already mentioned?
No. No. I don't want to avoid. I want to avoid any more slander. So no, let's leave them at 10th and say that might be the one regret of this predictions episode.
I think my justification for it is you sent me your predictions first, then I did mine, and then the two Callums sent me theirs this afternoon. So I think I was influenced too much by your predictions. I think I probably would have had them 6th or 7th if I didn't see yours first. And I kind of trusted you because.
I'll caveat mine by saying I was influenced more by Will Buxton's tweet than
That's true, yeah.
Expert knowledge of testing. So yeah,
I also thought that you were the prediction champion as well last year, so I thought I'd better kind of go close to him. Whereas Callum M, you obviously, it's quite clear you're not impressed. The audio listeners won't be able to see that you're not impressed, but you can tell them how unimpressed you are now.
Well, I just don't understand it. Like if you'd put them like 7th or 8th, like okay, that's fine, I can understand that. But like, did you have them 9th or 10th? Sorry, I misheard that.
Josh 10th, me 9th.
Well, you really think they're going to do worse than Williams, Alfa, and Haas? I can't see that. They won a race last year.
I'm blaming Joshua for my prediction.
Then you can't get out of this, Matt. You're your own man, Matt. Okay, you've made your choice.
I should have either just done it off a blank page and just done my predictions before looking at any of yours. Before looking at Joshua's, and I'm going to completely blame him again at the end of the season. But if Alpine do finish 9th, then I will be taking 100% credit for it. Let's move on from Alpine to Aston Martin, who we have overall in 6th. I put them 6th. Joshua 8th. The two Callums 7th. I think it's going to be kind of another average middle of the midfield season for Aston Martin. I don't think there's too much more we need to say than that, if I'm completely honest. 5th, AlphaTauri. I said that's where they should be aiming for earlier on. Myself and Joshua both put them 6th. Myself and Joshua put them 5th. Two Callums put them 6th. And overall, they've come out in 5th. 4th is McLaren. All of us put them 4th. Joshua, what do McLaren need to do to break into that top 3?
I don't know. I genuinely, unless there's some massive changes across the season, I don't think there's much they can do. Like really, I don't think there's anything significant they can do. They got beaten by Ferrari in a season where half a season when Lando dominated and still couldn't get that third. They won a race. I don't think they touch the top 3 really.
Callum O, let's say the cars are even. They're exactly the same on pace. Which driver lineup makes the top 3 in the Constructors' Championship between McLaren and Ferrari for you?
Oh, Ferrari, but only because Ricciardo was poor last year, and Sainz is one of the most underrated drivers on the grid, along with obviously Charles Leclerc being a fantastic driver. I'd have Ferrari have got the better lineup, but if Ricciardo turns up to the level that he has driven up before, there is nothing to say that McLaren couldn't break that mold. It's just haven't seen enough yet to convince me that's going to happen.
Same question to you, Callum M.
In terms of the driver lineup, it's like picking two of my kids who don't exist, obviously. What? I don't know. Again, it's the same with Callum O and Ricciardo, not in good form from last season. And again, if he starts the season poorly because of the whole COVID thing, you'd have to say Ferrari, but it's going to be tough. I don't think McLaren can do much more. They've got great drivers. They've got a seemingly great car. It's just that there are 3 teams who have got slightly better cars than they do. So again, who knows though, that we all thought they'd finish 3rd last season and then they ended up kind of bottling it and finishing 4th. So maybe the opposite happens this time round.
And last year McLaren were more inconsistent as well, I suppose you could say, in terms of where they were finishing. And that's probably down to Ricciardo, whereas Ferrari, while they weren't up there, they were always finishing inside the top 10 and fairly easily inside the top 10. Joshua, I'll put the same question to you. Just give us an answer in kind of one word if you can.
McLaren.
Fair enough. Right, let's move on to our top 3. In third, we've come out overall with Red Bull. Myself and Joshua have put them second. The 2 Callums have them third. So another case of the Callums versus everybody else. Joshua, I'll come to you. What puts Red Bull second for you?
Max, quite simple. I don't like saying it, but he has got some great ability. He is the world champion. I think ultimately that drags them just over the line of Ferrari.
And speaking of Ferrari, third for me and Joshua. Callum O's put them second. Callum M, you've also got them as your constructors champions. Is it again just a case of this is Ferrari's year?
Yeah, again, it's any one of these 3 can take it, but maybe it is Ferrari's year. Do they have the best driver lineup on the grid, as we were just hearing? Yeah, quite possibly. I hate to say it, kind of Sergio Perez might just drag Red Bull down a bit. Obviously Max was champion last year, but Red Bull finished second in the constructors. That was largely because Perez was sacrificed so much towards the end of the season to help Max. They ended up kind of throwing away the constructors. So yeah, there's that part of it. And again, with Russell at Mercedes, we don't quite know what's going to happen there. Whereas with Ferrari, there feels to be a bit more solidity, I guess you could say. But again, yeah, it's any one of those 3's game.
And Callum, you were thinking similarly as well. You've got them second. You've got Ferrari beating Red Bull. What's that down to for you?
The fact maybe Perez and Verstappen isn't as good of a lineup as Charles and Carlos, and the fact the cars look very even. I think Ferrari will just edge Red Bull.
And then in terms of our top 2, we've got Red Bull third, we've got Ferrari second, and then Mercedes in first. I don't think there's too much more we need to discuss there. Myself, Joshua, and Callum O have them winning the championship. Callum M has them second, and we've already talked about how we think Ferrari will take the constructors and Leclerc will take the title. So that's all down to that. So let's wrap up then with our wild predictions for the season. Something that might not happen, something that could happen, something funny, something that's just a little bit different. Joshua, we'll come to you first. Why not? Let's hear your wild prediction this season.
I said Nico Hülkenberg will race once this season. I mean,
that's not wild.
It's happened before. Why can't it happen again? It'll be just fun to see. Well, not fun to see that someone's have to miss a race, but I think for me to deserve that Haas seat over Magnussen. So I'd like to see him race.
Callum O, what about yourself? What have you gone for your out of the blue one for this year?
I've got 2. I've got Lewis Hamilton to win his 8th championship and then retire, and Sergio Perez to be dropped.
Ooh. Callum, we've got to go straight. Callum M, talk us through that one.
You're just doing that to wind me up, aren't you? Honestly, Jesus.
And what makes you think he'll be dropped? Just too old.
I think he'll just be too far off Verstappen. Helmut Marko will lose his head in numerous interviews about the fact they aren't the best team, and let's be honest, they're not going to kick Max out. So Perez could struggle.
Makes sense. It makes sense. In terms of my one, I obviously backed Sebastian Vettel in what was probably a wild prediction last year, even though it was supposed to be a serious one. So I'm going to back him again this year. Last year, he was obviously on the podium. This year, Sebastian Vettel is going to win a race. We always have a random race winner every year. So that's my wild prediction for this one. And it's definitely going to happen. I can already see Callum's in a kind of Aston Martin coloured green shirt. So you clearly think it's going to happen.
You know what? That actually it could, because there is a wild winner every year, I guess. You know, who would have thought that Ocon would have won last year, or Gasly
exactly
the year before? So will it be Seb? Yeah, maybe not. I'd rather back someone like Alonso or Gasly again to win a race. But you know, I mean, this shirt is not an indication that I am an Aston Martin fan. Just so the viewers know.
And your wild prediction as well, Callum.
I have a slightly depressing one, and it's perhaps not so wild, but I believe that this could be Haas's last year in F1. Even though I think the results will improve, you know, there's always rumblings that Gene Haas isn't happy, that he's not happy with the progress that's been made or lack thereof. And with news that Andretti want to bring an F1 team in the next couple of years, I think we could see Haas leave and Andretti come in next season. I don't think Andretti will buy the Haas team. I think they'll try and form their own thing. But it would be a shame to see them go. They've had some really great moments. It'd be a shame to see Gunther Steiner go. I think he's everyone's favourite team principal. So, yeah, and especially without the Uralkali sponsorship, they're going to struggle financially. So, sadly, I think Haas, this is going to be the beginning of the end for Haas.
Good to end the podcast on a happy note, eh?
Just edit it around, you know.
We'll put Vettel's win in at the end, and then yeah. But Joshua, I think it would be a shame to see Haas go, wouldn't it? You know, like Callum said, some good moments from the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously not without their controversies and not without their the sad moments, but yeah, I think it'd be a shame to lose Gunther Steiner, as we've said. And I thought obviously they'll leave a bit legacy with Grosjean and that miracles that he survived that crash. So good and bad moments for them, but especially we'll be sad to lose another team if it happens. You never know. Maybe we'll see 11 teams in a few years' time.
I think I might change my wild prediction with agreeing with Callum, saying that Haas are going to go, and then Gunther Steiner and Christian Horner are then co-team principals of Red Bull. I think that would be quite funny. Or Toto Wolff alongside Christian Horner would also be quite funny to see. Toto Wolff alongside Gunther Steiner. God, Horner and Wolff would never get on, would they? But yeah, I think that'd be quite funny. Cool. So that's pretty.
Yeah. So I'd love to see Gunther Steiner tell Max Verstappen he's a wanker after a race. I would pay good money to watch that.
Oh, that would be brilliant. That's a better way to end the pod, Callum.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh dear. I think should we have that as our joint? The four of us. Our wild prediction is going to be that's going to happen. Let's go for it.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Well, thank you very much to the four of you, the three of you, for coming along and joining me. We're just approaching an hour, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Those are our predictions for the season. As always, cannot wait till December already to have a look back and see me and Josh make a fool of ourselves, or maybe the two Callums. So it's going to be Josh versus the Callums again after Abu Dhabi. Which is going to be certainly interesting, and to see if Charles Leclerc wins the championship as well will be even more interesting as well. So yeah, thank you very much to the three of you. Josh has been doing a great job with our social media recently, so if you haven't started following that, please do. They're on screen at the moment if you're watching. I'm sure if you're listening on the podcast, the four of ours will be on there, as well as all the podcast stuff. We're on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat as well, Josh, and Instagram. Yeah,
because why not? We've got a Facebook page now. We're everywhere.
We're
so
massive.
I think all of them are Lights Out Pod _, aren't they?
Most of or if not, we've got links. We've got links to them on our platform somewhere. So you'll find us.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much to the three of you for joining us. Hope you all enjoy the race on Sunday, as well as everybody listening. It should be a good one. Let's hope we're not sitting here this time next week with absolutely nothing to talk about, but I'm sure we will be, as there always is something to talk about within Formula One. So yeah, thanks to the three of you for joining me. If you're on YouTube, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe, share it with your mates, all that good stuff. And if you're on the podcast apps, do whatever you can do on there. I think follow or subscribe or leave us a rating, whatever you can do will be massively appreciated. And we'll see you after Bahrain. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.